And the real queen. Hello. Hello, the real queen. This is a new voice on the channel. Never been here before. Shame on me for what? The real queen. Shame on me for what? Be more explicit. If you disagree, I'm happy to hear it. Give me a reason. If you're going to say, but you're black, I don't care. If you're going to say, you're black and Hispanic, I don't care. The color of my skin has nothing to do with anything. If you're going to say, it's because I'm a Republican, again, that's meaningless. What is it I should be ashamed of? Don't be bashful. Tell me, did I get something wrong? Is there something that you disagree with in the conclusions or the evidence that I have shown for the last 3.5 hours? I'm perfectly happy to hear that. The real queen, you can call in to 607-242-9247 and I'll hear it. So the real queen goes on to say, you should stand with us, not against us. Who is us? The real queen. Who is us? I'm an American. Who is us? Are you saying Russians? The Chinese? Communists? Socialists? Progressives? Who are you talking about? Who is us? Who is it that I should stand with? I stand with America. I stand with the Constitution. I stand with individual freedom, the pursuit, I believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What part of that do you not agree with? What part of that are you saying I should be ashamed of? I'm not attacking you, the real queen. I'm asking a question. I would like an answer. And I'm telling you, you can call in and you can provide that answer. If you think I have done something wrong, tell me why. Tell everyone why. I'm perfectly happy to hear it. I'm thick-skinned. I'm not afraid. Let's have the conversation. Again, you can call in or you can type it out. It's faster to call in, assuming that you're in the United States. Okay, so now you're saying, I stand for BS. That means nothing. That the real queen has just said, Michael stands for BS. Okay, that's meaningless. First of all, spell. Stop typing on, actually spell out the words. Okay, I don't talk or write in text speech. And I'll understand you better if you actually text, if you actually write in English. If English isn't your first language, no problem. I can appreciate not everyone speaks English. So if you type wrong in English, I can appreciate that. I don't hold it against you. Text is not English. It's not a language. Here it is. Here it is. There it is. I've been waiting for it all day. The real queen says, but you don't go after legacy admissions. Keep fronting. What's the problem? So what's the problem with admissions as they are? If white people get in, Asians get in, what's the problem? Blacks get in, Latinos get in. You're telling me that if we have this level playing field, that black people will never achieve. You're telling me that you agree with Erica Marsh that somehow black people cannot achieve. That you do not believe that they will be able to rise up to the requirement. And again, Erica Marsh, a Democrat who worked to get Joe Biden elected, who is a volunteer for the Obama administration, Obama Foundation. Blacks will not be able to succeed in a merit-based system. That's what it sounds like you're saying there, the real queen. It sounds like you agree as well with Congresswoman Cori Bush that if you hear a decision that isn't what you like, well, then it must be racist. I don't agree with any of those. Okay, so you're telling me, but it's hard to get into Harvard. Yes, it is. And the best get into Harvard. And that's all they should. If you're black and you get into Harvard, fantastic. I'm happy for you. If you're a diversity hired and you get into Harvard, then I think it's crap. Same thing I said about Ketanji Brown Jackson. She wasn't the best choice for Supreme Court justice. Even the Democrats admitted that. She's the one that checked all the right boxes. So I have less respect for her. Why? Because she's not the best. There were at least 8 other Democrats who were women and black that have been more qualified than Ketanji Brown Jackson and deserved the position. So I would rather have her in, but we got a diversity hire instead. Yes, some people get into Harvard, and some people, actually you can say that about every college. That's a benefit of going to college. It's a benefit of graduating. The real queen right now is saying, well, some people get in just because their family got in before. Okay. And what's that got to do with anything? Is that a problem? Why is it a problem? Are you telling me that every single person who goes to Harvard that is white or Asian can only bring in, that's the only people that are available, and if you didn't take them out, that no black people would go in? How about this? What about the black legacy admissions? Because again, if you're black and you graduated Harvard, you get to have the same legacy administration. Your grandkids can go to Harvard too. But we didn't think about the black legacy admissions. And now the real queen says, heard enough of this. We have been dealing with people like you who will defend injustice for 400 years. Well, then you haven't actually heard anything I've said. And you're not looking at the Constitution. And you don't understand the Constitution. Because the Constitution and the 14th Amendment make it clear that what you're advocating for and what you are advocating for is prejudice. There's no way around it, the real queen. That's prejudice. You're supporting prejudice and bias. Do you understand that? And do you understand the implication of supporting prejudice and bias means that one day that prejudice and bias will be against you, as it has been in the past? The injustice of 400 years ago isn't today. By the way, we have achieved massive. We're nowhere near where we were 400 years ago. Black people aren't walking around in chains. Black people are senators. They are Congress members. They own businesses. We have people who've been the president and the vice president. If you don't think that's been a huge turnaround of success in the last 50 years, you're not paying attention to history. And none of that justifies racism. How am I wrong? The real queen, how am I wrong? I'm asking you very directly, the real queen. Is it constitutional to promote prejudice? Does the United States government have the right to promote racism, prejudice, and bias? It's a yes or a no. So folks, just like Graham, you too can call in to 607-242-9247. I want to address, and I thank Graham for calling in. I thought it was very interesting, some of the points that he made. And as you heard, we agree on certain things, we disagree on certain things. But during that conversation, another person who I'm not sure if they've ever been on the channel before, Paula J., decided that she wanted to make some comments and was commenting on, I think, some of the things we had said previously in reference to, I think, affirmative action. Perhaps it was in education. It's not clear. And so they made a couple of comments, starting with Paula J. said, you must be getting paid to say this stuff. No. Why do I always get this from some individuals? And they tend to be on the far left. And they like to say, well, you're only saying this because you're getting paid. What, I can't be a black conservative Republican? Is it somehow impossible to imagine that someone actually believes in Republican principles, believes in America, believes in making America great, that has had the experiences for over 50 years in America, throughout this nation, in being educated, and can say that, okay, I believe in the Republican values? Why do they always have to try and demean it and try and somehow quantify it and say, no, you're just doing this for money. You don't believe this. No, Paula, it sounds like you don't believe the principles that I'm speaking about. And for you, it would be impossible, and that you would compromise yourself by accepting money and say something that you don't believe. I don't. As you can see on the screen, Yes, I will accept Patreon, $1.50 a month. Yes, people can make donations on PayPal. And yes, it costs me several $1,000s, over $5,000 a year to do this. And I pay for that out of my pocket. I don't get paid by institutions. I don't get paid by business, any of the politicians, left, right, or center. And if I ever do, I will disclose that publicly. But the fact is, that's not the case. So no, I'm not getting paid. I'm saying this because, and I've been saying this for 17 years, because I believe it. And I have the proof to show it. Paula goes on to say, the problem is that many people will defend the wealthy and elite to the ends of the earth, but when it comes to poor folk, they will pull out the rug. Clarence Thomas should be ashamed of himself. Well, there's a bunch of assumptions being made there. So Paula is assuming that I am defending the wealthy and elites, which isn't the case. We're not talking about wealthy and elites. We've been talking about policies, everything from international policy to local policy. So the assumption that I'm only talking about the wealthy and the elite as a benefit, well, that's not really true. So that's a misunderstanding of who I am and what I talk about. And Clarence Thomas, why should he be ashamed of himself? He was looking at the constitutionality of an issue, and he found it unconstitutional, nothing to be ashamed of. Whether you like that decision or not is irrelevant. Is it constitutional or not? Give me the constitutional determination of why affirmative action should exist. Why should the American government, under the Constitution, be prejudiced against American citizens? That's the question at hand. Should the American government be allowed by the Constitution and the amendments to be prejudiced against American citizens, which it would seem the 14th Amendment denies that ability. You're saying Clarence Thomas should be ashamed of himself. You're not explaining why. It doesn't make any sense. Your argument is poor. Paula then goes on to say, how about we go after Plessy versus Ferguson, Clarence? Now, I assume that this is the beginning of the personal attacks, or a continuation of it, where Paula is now saying that it's calling me Clarence Thomas. In other words, and this is a way to try and insinuate, it seems, that I'm being called an Uncle Tom, that I'm not black enough for Paula, and she doesn't agree with my political views. You don't have to agree with my political views, but the personal attack is kind of demeaning. It's useless. Demeaning against you, Paula, not me. And it's useless. How about we go after Plessy versus Ferguson, which does not exist in the United States? It was overturned. Bad laws and bad decisions in the United States get overturned. What's the problem with that? We've seen that happen throughout the history of the United States, and we've seen it happen again. I have no problem with that. She goes on to say, you have no problem pulling up the ladder behind you. Prove that, please. Paula, you're saying that I am denying others to have the success that I have had, and yet you don't know what I do in my private life and my volunteering. You have no idea how many people I have helped to create their own political channels, nor what I have done to help various channels to grow, to be created and to grow. How many people I have taught to do political commentary, to be able to go onto the internet, to use audio, video equipment, to do editing. You have no idea. How can you say that I'm pulling up the ladder behind me? And you're assuming that I'm rich. I'm not. I'm poor. That's not a secret. It's not something I've ever hidden from anyone. I'm poor. So how are you saying I'm pulling up the ladder behind me? Please provide the proof, because that is a personal attack, and it's misguided, and it's uninformed. Therefore, it's unintelligent. She goes on to say, he is too busy on private yachts of Republican donors, as if we have not seen Democrats of every type on the private yachts just as much as Republicans do. That's one of the problems with our elected system and many of our elected officials. And yes, we know that we see that with Supreme Court justices just as well. So is it something that you have a problem with? Fantastic. Have a problem with every Supreme Court justice having those privileges, because they all have them. Paula goes on to say, no personal attacks from me. Yes, you are making personal attacks. That's what you're writing. That may not be what you intend. Maybe you have a different way of interpreting it, but what's being written, yeah, it's personal attacks. And I'll call you out for it. I have no problem with that. Paula goes on to say, all I am saying is that I think it's sad that you have no problem towing the line like Clarence Thomas for an unjust system. And there goes the personal attack again, proving my point right there. So, towing the line, I don't know who you think I'm towing the line for. I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for anyone else. So who am I towing the line for? Again, you're making an assumption, and you're trying to put me in a box so you can justify the feeling you have, not based on the principles or the proof or the evidence or the conclusions that I have made. If you want to take on what I am saying, take it on. But don't try and assume and try and presume to put me into a box that I don't fit in. Sorry. And as for Clarence Thomas, if I could be like Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, I'd be happy to. He is a success. He is a symbol of success, and he should be lauded. Whether or not you agree with his decision. He's had decisions I haven't agreed with before. I don't care. He's still a Supreme Court Justice. He should be respected as such. And just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's wrong. And the system in the United States is one of the most just systems in the world. Please point to me to a system that is more just than the United States, because I'm not really aware of it. But I'd be happy to see which one you would point to and how you would prove that it is more just than the United States. Is it perfect? No. But is it just? Yes, mostly. And more so when we take politics out of the entire thing, like the reform that we have seen, where we have revolving doors on criminals that is allowing them to commit more crimes, not less. So that's one thing I would say there. But thank you for the personal attack as well. Paula then goes to say, sad he's getting high. Who's getting high? No one gets high. I smoke cigarettes. If you don't know the difference, that's your personal misinterpretation. But I smoke cigarettes. I've never denied that. I don't smoke drugs. Sorry. I'm sure you would hope I did. I don't. And I'm very honest with my audience and have been for 17 years. It's not a new thing. But going on. So I'm not sure if Paula J is still on, but it would seem that Paula J isn't. And Paula, you can absolutely call in if you wish to, after making all these personal attacks. If you would like to actually call in and make a substantive argument, I'd be happy to hear it. But I have yet to hear you say anything of substance. You don't like the decision that Clarence Thomas made. That's not substantive, that's personal. That's a feeling. You think that I am rich. That's a misunderstanding of fact. You're just deluded. That's your problem, not mine. You don't think I'm black enough. That's your problem, not mine. Again, you haven't said anything substantive. The issue at hand is affirmative action unconstitutional? That's the question at hand. The other question at hand is, does the president have the right and the power through an executive order to wipe out college student debt? The answer to both of those are no. Simple. That's about Constitution. That's about law, not about your feelings. I don't care what your feelings are, Paula. You can have whatever feeling you want. I have my own feelings. I don't need yours. And just because you have a feeling doesn't mean that I'm obligated to share it. So let's understand that very clearly. Yes, you've made a personal attack against me. I don't have any reason to be nice to you about it. You don't like it? Too bad. That's not my problem. That's your personal problem. Again, that's your feeling, not mine. But if you want to have a conversation about the issues, fantastic. Show me in the Constitution where it is constitutional, allowed, and in fact promoted by the government for there to be prejudice by the United States government that has never been overturned, in particular by the 14th Amendment. I don't see that evidence because I don't think it exists. And if you don't like Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, that's your personal preference. I could care less. Clarence Thomas is a well-qualified Supreme Court justice who is a well-renowned scholar of law, United States law. You don't have to like him. You can't take away his qualifications and his capabilities. Period. You don't agree. Too bad. That doesn't change the empirical facts. I think I've addressed Paula as clearly as I can. If Paula thinks I have missed something, or if Paula thinks that I have misstated something, fantastic. But if you come onto this channel and you want to throw around a bunch of personal attacks, I guarantee you won't like the response you'll get. You don't have to agree with me. Graham didn't agree with me and everything we were talking about in education. That's fine. You don't have to agree. But if you want to make personal attacks, trust me, I can do it better than you can. I've been doing this longer. And I doubt that you can say anything that I haven't heard before. My skin is thick. I don't really care. Sorry that I have to go into that with everybody. But sometimes people think that they can just be rude because they're anonymous persons on the internet. Or in person, for that matter. I could care less. The fact is, no, you can't. And I will defend myself, and I can do so quite well. Thank you. And I always love how whenever they do these things, they make these personal attacks, then they run away. They never stay. They never stick around. They always make the personal attacks, then they go as fast as possible. They get away. Ooh, we made a personal attack. He might respond. He's paying attention. Got to go. It's cowardice. And notice, did not answer the core issue. Is it constitutional? Totally avoided that. No, let's make a personal attack. You're black. You can't have a choice. You have no agency. You have to agree with whatever the progressives have said. You have to accept that. No, I don't. Nor do I have to support government-obligated prejudice. I'm sorry. No, I don't. And here's the other thing that I find interesting about this. And you're assuming that people who are black or Hispanic or minorities, you're assuming that they don't have any agency, that they don't have the ability to survive on a merit basis, that they can't achieve everything I've achieved and far, far more. And I think that's an insulting way to look at people. I think that's self-limiting. It is insulting. I believe people can achieve everything and more, well beyond me. But it seems that certain people, like Paula J., they seem to get onto this channel and they say, no, you just don't understand. Black people aren't capable. Or maybe Paula doesn't even understand what she's saying. When she says, you're pulling up the ladder, you're assuming that no one can climb the ladder. You're assuming that no one can make their own ladder. That the only way black people can ever achieve is if the government intercedes, which means you're telling me that black people are subhuman. I reject that concept. Same thing for women, same thing for Hispanics, because that's what you're saying. That is the core of what you have said. And I reject it. And I think that anyone who says that needs to think about it. Graham says, Michael, I would argue that you are not really poor. My bank account would disagree. Money in the bank account is just one small aspect of wealth. Well, yes, that's true. It's possible that knowledge/wisdom is one of the far greater worth than monetary currency. I would agree with that. Yes, I am rich in experience, knowledge, in interpersonal relations. In terms of paying my bills, no. I'm just as poor as everyone else, if not more than others. Such is life. But again, their assumption is based on the idea at its core that black people, minorities, women, cannot achieve anything unless someone else steps in for them, that they need a savior. And the progressives are your savior. If you believe in affirmative action, if you believe in the Equal Rights Amendment, then you believe in the fact that you need a savior. And your savior is progressivism. You need the progressives to save you because you can't achieve on your own. I would beg to tell you, you can. You don't need progressivism. You don't need anything except yourself. You can do it. I believe in you. I believe in you more than the progressives do because I don't think you need their help, my help, or anyone else's. If you want it, you can do it. You go after it. and you might succeed and you might fail. Do it anyway. If you cannot achieve anything without the government stepping in, without these political organizations stepping in to make the decisions for you, to prop you up, then you are nothing. They are everything. You are subservient to them. Whereas, in my argument, if you do it yourself, they serve you. It's just that simple. Unless Paula J. would like to call in and refute anything that I have said, to counter anything that I have said, I'm more than happy if the real queen would like to come back and to refute anything that I have said. I'm happy to have that conversation without the personal attacks, without their personal attacks against me. Stop trying to question my blackness. I'm as black as I was yesterday, as black as I'll be tomorrow, black as I was when I was born. It's not an issue. It's not something that you have any control over. And if you don't like it, you don't like how I am as a black Hispanic man, kiss my bottom. I don't care. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today. Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States, admitted he has not read the Arizona immigration law. Let's think about that for a moment.
I know it is a difficult task to stand up in front of our peers and say to Congress that Congress has failed to listen to voters.
You here at CPAC said yes to President Donald Trump in 2016, and I know you're going to say yes to.
She was very aware that she had the flag in her hands and that the flag was dragging on the ground. That is a intentional action. She knows what she is doing. She then drops the flag. Understand the logic, and we see this in social media on a regular basis, and it's something that Newsweek decided not to tell you about.
Held the AR-15 in my hand. I wish I had it. It is as heavy as 10 boxes that you might be moving. And the bullet that is utilized, a 50 caliber, these kinds of bullets, need to be licensed and do not need to be on the street.
That's right. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, a representative in Congress who is writing laws to deny American citizens their rights, has no idea what she's talking about.
And they are against the vaccine mandate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you support that?
We shouldn't have any problem in meeting that error rate, because last time I checked, there were not a lot of planes crashing into each other at airports, right? You can meet a very, very stringent accuracy rate when it's important, when it matters, like in federal elections.
No one wants to point out the quote from Joe Biden where he is admitting that he is willing to lie to the American people.